you guys have any questions at all throughout the process, don't hesitate to stop me and ask any of those questions. We'll definitely try to keep this informal and easy for us to be able to kind of answer any of your questions in there. So Cablecast is the broadcast automation. So this is controlling your schedule, creating shows for playback on your channels, and things like that. So what we're seeing is the main menu for that piece of software. And from the main menu, you're going to get a lot of great information basically right off the bat. And we'll kind of explain some of that stuff before we kind of dive into the actual creating of shows and scheduling and things like that. So right across the top here, we've got our server status bar. And this is going to give you a lot of great heads-up information right off the bat about what's going on with your system. First thing that you're going to see here is our autopilot. And we'll talk more about autopilot when we get into our actual scheduling portion of our training today. But autopilot is the actual activation of our schedule. So that's where we're actually going to activate it, commit it to the hardware to actually execute the switches and everything for their channel. Next section that we're going to have is it's going to talk about our digital files. It's going to tell us how many of them that we have that are valid, how many of them are orphaned, and we'll talk about orphan files here in just a little bit. We also have our invalid files, our processing, things like that. So it's going to basically tell us the current state of how many files are living on the server for playback already. Right here. And I just want to take a quick look again just to refresh on what kind of server you guys have here. We have a FlexLight and a streamer, that's right. So the last section that you're going to see here is our server health, and it's going to basically, the system is going to periodically check to make sure that everything is fully operational and that no hard drives have failed, and to make sure that you have enough free space available on those hard drives. If you have any issues with your hard drives or you drop below 20% of free space, you're going to get a warning message under your server health here. And your little heart icon is going to turn red, kind of like what our autopilot looks like. And our heart is going to turn into a broken heart. So it's going to let you know that, hey, there's an issue that you need to resolve as soon as possible. So might as well go take a look at it and get that fixed. Next up here in the top right corner, we're going to be able to see that we have a live server clock. And that clock is tied to the actual server itself. So anytime you actually schedule something for playback, let's say we schedule a program to play back at 2:30, it's going to run off of this clock. So when 2:30 rolls around here, it's going to trigger that execution. So it's just basically going to be able to give you a live clock to see exactly kind of where you are at that current moment during the day. Over here on our left-hand side, we have all of our menu options. And the nice thing with this is this menu bar is always going to be over here on your left-hand side. So we can quickly jump back and forth between different areas in our software, whether it be our internet videos or digital files, our schedule, tools, settings, whatever it may be. So we don't have to go all the way back out to the main menu to find the menu structure that we want to access and then go into the next menu thing. So it'll quickly add to your day-to-day production and operation of our software. Alright, so that being said, let me get a couple questions for you. So what's the primary type of content that you're going to be playing out of your system? Or is it going to be mostly replay stuff, or do you do some live programs? Kind of what's the consensus of content?
Well, we do some live basketball games here in the fall. We take things from PEG Media, programs we've recorded locally ourselves and edit. Kind of a variety of subject matter.
Okay. Take a quick look at some stuff.
What's the phone number?
You have a live feed. Alright. Okay.
381.
So, kind of to get a good understanding of kind of like what your guys' workflow is going to generally be, but alright. So, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me any of those questions, and we're going to kind of dive right into it right now. So, anything that you're going to want to have scheduled for playback or have on your channel that you're going to want to schedule needs to have a show record for it. Whether it's a playback file that's playing off of your server, so something that you've shot and edited and then put on the server for playback, or if it's a live broadcast of something, so a live city council meeting or a basketball game or something like that from a live feed. You're going to need to create a show record if you want the system to automate that process. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to create a show record first from a file that you put onto the server. So anything that you're going to want to have played back, replayed, so something that you edit and put on the server, we're going to create a show record from that. So the first thing is how to get the stuff onto the server. So everything that you're going to be putting onto the server is going to live on the E drive of that FlexLite server that you guys have. There's going to be two drives when you look at it. There's a C drive, which is all of your operating system. That's going to be all your database, your config files, all that stuff. Your E drive is your content. So that's going to be everything that you want played back on your channels. So the trick is basically you just need to get whatever you're going to want for playback onto that video server, that SX or that FlexLite server, into the E drive. You can either do it by clicking and grabbing a USB drive or a hard drive or something like that and clicking and dragging it onto the actual server itself by plugging it in, or that drive is set up as a shared drive. You can also go and either map to it or you can transfer it over your network.
Hey Ryan, this is Randy.
So either way.
Can you demonstrate that for Wayne? You've got files on this computer, and it is networked to the Cablecast drive. So maybe you could just show him. Yep. So you have what's your folder that you're working
so
with?
right there, yeah.
My folder's
Yeah,
under
so here.
documents.
Okay.
So the username and password for the server is going to be administrator. And then the password is going to be TRMS.
There's the E drive.
And there is our E drive. Come on, open up.
Which is one of these.
Okay, you should be able to
It's the
open
second
that up.
one.
There we go. And there, you'll be able to just drop files right into there.
Now, he can take over here. Why don't you go ahead and try that a minute, Wayne, just so you understand what's going on here.
So what do I?
You're gonna, where was that folder that you had? Go to Finder here a minute. Oh, you're in Finder. Open a new Finder window maybe.
Here it's all under your shared. It's going to be that Flex 340.
Click on that.
That's what we're looking at right
Yeah,
now.
right.
If you open File here, go up here, new window, new Finder window. All right, now go to the folder that you have all your stuff in. It's all this stuff here.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what we get for programs.
So just pull this window over a little bit so you can see what you're doing. Okay, now take one of those and just drop it into this, just drag it into that window. Okay, and wait for it to transfer. So before you can create a sequence of shows, obviously those shows have to be in that folder.
Which is this whole thing right now.
Yeah, and we just connected to it here.
Right.
And once you've connected to it, I mean, you can leave that up. You saw how easy he connected to it. But I can set that up for you so that you don't have to do that every time. But you know, the first thing after we finished with your training and so on, is you're going to want to move all your media onto that E drive so you have some stuff to start building your shows with.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Because that's a small file right there, the what's what on
Yeah.
what, so.
Yeah. But this is mostly for demonstration purposes,
Right.
and that way he has a few shows that he can work with and show you. So you can see 13 gigabytes, it's only taking, you know, less than a minute to copy that over. So it won't take you long once you start this. Ryan, how about folder file protocol within the E drive? Do you have any suggestions? Should he set up a folder? Is that something you're going to talk about?
No, you're not going to want to set up any folders or anything into that E drive. Everything needs to be loose in that root drive.
Okay.
Or else the system will not recognize them. So on that E drive, just leave it completely open and just drop it right into it.
Okay.
We'll just wait for that to finish transferring here. Alright, there we go. So now we've transferred that over there, and as you can see in our software, once you transfer it, it's automatically going to start processing. It's going to recognize that file, and it's going to start processing that for you. So basically just dropping anything in there and be able to do that. Now the thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to talk about file formats and what formats are accepted for playback on our servers. So I'm going to just open up a new tab here, and I'm going to go to our website, which is trms.com. We're going to go to support, Cablecast support. And under our documentation here, we have our Flex Server Formats document. We'll open that up real quick. So these are all the different file types and formats that are accepted for playback on our video servers. We do support a variety of different codecs, as well as a couple different formats as well. So if you're going to be doing standard definition, high definition, at 1080 or 720 or interlaced or progressive, whatever it may be, we do support a variety of different things. The thing is, they just need to follow a certain specific criteria. So, with our formats, we do support for like standard definition and high definition. We can do MPEG-2s, DVC Pro, Apple ProRes, H.264, whatever it may be. The big thing is you're going to want to make sure that your frame size is correct. So it needs to be 720 by 480 or 1920 by 1080. Or if you're doing 720 content, 1280 by 720. And then you also need to make sure that it's got an appropriate frame rate. 2997 for all your interlaced content, and 5994 for your progressive content. Then you got your audio codecs and your audio sample rates and bit rates and things like that. So this document is a really good one to have. A lot of our customers will print this off and put it right next to their edit suites, so that they know when they go to export that they're exporting something out at the right quality and the right settings. The most commonly used file formats that we see are going to be your MPEG-2s, just because of the versatility and stability of it, as well as your H.264s for convenience factor. So, either one, there isn't a right or wrong, or one that we prefer over another. It's all up to you and your workflow. So now that that file is done processing, we can go and now create a show record for it. And it's going to show up in our orphaned section. As you can see, we now have 2 orphan files. Now, orphan files are files that we've put on the server that do not have a show record created for them yet, so they can't be played on our server. They're just basically sitting there waiting to be used. So there's two ways you can access our orphan files. We can either click on the orphan file right here in our digital file status bar across the top, or we can go over here to our left on our menu bar, click on digital files, and go up to orphaned. Here it's going to show us all of the files that are currently orphaned. And you're going to see that we've got one with a green check mark, the one that we just dropped on there, as well as one with a red X. That green check mark is going to indicate that this is a valid file, that this file can be played back on the video server. The red X is saying that it's an invalid. There's something wrong with that file that can't make it play. It doesn't follow a certain criteria within these settings. So we can click on each one of these programs, or each one of these files, and we can get information about it right here, where it's going to tell us our file name, our length, our file size, what codec it is, frame rate, so on and so forth for that. With this one, we'll be able to look here, and we're going to look, and it's going to specifically call out what is wrong with it. So if you do get an invalid file, it will tell you what's wrong with that. So it's going to say that the frame size of this video is not compatible with the video server's current resolution. So this 960 by 540 is not an accepted file format. So if it's going to be standard definition like that, needs to be 720 by 480 or 1920 by 1080 or whatever it may be. But being it is standard definition, that's going to have to probably be 720 by 480 on that. So once you get that file in there, now we need to create the show record for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this new show. So we're going to create a new show for our spring concert here. We click on that and it's going to bring up a show record for us. And it's going to be populating the important mandatory fields automatically for us into the show record. But there are only 3 mandatory fields with any show record. Everything else is going to be optional. Your 3 mandatory fields are going to be your title up here at the top. They're going to be your format and your length. Those are the only 3 that are mandatory. Everything else is going to be optional. So I'm going to start from our top right up here, and I'm going to kind of work our way down with any of our show records. So the first thing we're going to see is we're going to see our title, and we actually have 2 titles. We have a title and a CG title. The difference between the 2 is that your title is going to be your internal title. That's what you're going to name it so that you can reference it and look for it. That's what you're going to see within the software for when you go to schedule it. So a lot of people will either have naming conventions for their files, or they might have acronyms or abbreviations that they tend to use for specific shows or files that they'll use in their title for their own purposes. So that's going to be internal. Your CG title is a public-facing title. That CG title is going to be used if you publish your schedule to your website for people to see what's coming up next, or if you use the carousel software to publish a schedule to see what happened or what's coming up next between programs and things like that. So that CG title is your public-facing title. So you might actually spell something out rather than using an abbreviation, or you might not put as much detail into it that isn't relevant to the viewer but is more important to you, so you put that in the main title rather than the CG title.
Okay.
So you do have the 2 in there. If you don't put something in the CG title, that's fine. It's just going to automatically pull whatever's in your title and populate it in your CG title for you. So that's why the title is the only one that's mandatory. It's just going to pre-populate. Because we created it from an orphan file, it automatically grabbed the file name and put it in our title and our CG title for us. If we wanted to change that, we can go in and just type it there. Our next field that we have is a local ID field. This is an optional field, and this is for if you have your own internal cataloging or internal reference system for your content. So a lot of people used to use this for naming and numbering their DVDs and tapes on the shelves. So it's tape number 54 on shelf 6 or something like that, whatever it may be. That's kind of what it was used for. It's just another searchable field that you can use, and it's just another place for you to organize and name and label things if you want. Next field that we have is our projects. In Cablecast, you have the ability to group similar programs together under a project. So let's say you might have like those basketball games. You might create a project for the high school basketball games. And you might create another project for the high school football games. And then the baseball games or whatever. And then you might have a project for city council meetings. And then school board meetings, whatever it may be. It's just a way to kind of group similar programs together so that you can search and organize and find things a lot faster when you go to schedule them. You can also generate reports from the software, and you can run reports by projects as well, so you know how many times the city council meeting is played or whatever it may be. If you click on your selected project, it's going to give you a drop-down menu of all your different projects that you can create, or that you've already got created. You can select. If you want to create a new project, simply click on New, where you can add a name, description, and tie it to a specific content creator or producer there. I would highly encourage you to get in the habit of using projects because it will speed up a lot of your searching and scheduling process if you have projects in place. Next field that we have is an options field, and the option that we have in here is to make a program CG exempt. And what the CG exempt option allows you to do is this is for your filler content, so things like PSAs or station IDs or whatever it may be as filler. So when you have that CG exempt, it will not show up on your public schedule. So your schedule on your website or your schedule that you're publishing into Carousel. Because no one really cares if this certain PSA plays at 7:45. They want to know what the whole meat and potatoes of your actual schedule are. So you don't have to fill it up with all that filler content. You can make a program CG exempt. Moving down, our next section that we have here is our Reel section. And the Reel section is going to be about, there's going to be telling the system where the actual source media for this program is, or for the show record. So we're telling it that what we need to do is say, well, what format is it? This is a file that's living on the server, so we're going to make sure that our format is set to video server. Because we created from an orphan file, it automatically generated that and populated that in for us. Now, if it was from a live source or some other destination or other, we can choose what other kind of format it may be. And we'll talk about live programs here in a little bit, so from a live source or a live format. Well, because we created it from orphan, it's automatically populated in there. Next field that we have is we need to make sure that our length is set right. It's going to pull automatically the length of that file for us and pull it in there. From there, we have the ability to set an in and out mark if we want to. So let's say that there's color bars at the beginning of this file, or it's a city council meeting and the first 5 minutes is just people mulling around before they call the meeting to order. Well, we have the ability, instead of throwing it into an edit suite, trimming that stuff off, exporting it out, we can set an in mark and an out mark to be able to clean that file up if we need to be able to save us some time. Excuse me. So you can simply put in a start time, or in and an out, and it would respect that when the file plays back. Next section that we have is our bibliographic information. And this is going to be information about that actual program. So the first field that we have here is our event date. And that is the date of when the actual event happened. So you can just kind of keep some ideas and some tabs and information about when the program happened. So with this being a spring concert, we can say, oh, this was last Tuesday or last week's spring concert, or whatever. We can set a date on that. Or if it's a basketball, if you're scheduling something in the future, you can say, okay, well, this is the live basketball game on the 31st, whatever it may be. It's going to default to today's date, just because that's the day that we're creating the show record for. Next field that we have is our category field. Category field is very similar to our project field, but it's more general and more vague. So this is where we're going to say, okay, this is like our music, and we have some categories already preloaded in here for you. So with this case, we might say, okay, this is the music category, but up here in our project field, we might say that this is the high school choir concert as the project. And then that way then we can say, okay, well then the next one is our high school band concert, or the middle school band concert, or whatever it may be. So your category is going to be more general and vague, where your project is going to be more specific. Next field that we have is a producer field, and you can tie this to specific content creators or producers if you want to. So if you have people submitting programming for playback, you can generate different producers profiles for them. You can create a new one, put in a name, contact information, all that in there. And then that way you can generate and search by a producer, or you can generate reporting seeing how often a producer or program submitter or whoever it may be is submitting programming for playback on your channels. Next field that we have is a comments field, and this is primarily used as a description of what the program is about. So you might say, high school choir concert from September 14th, whatever it may be, in there. Other people have used this as just a technical field for making notes, saying we were having audio issues for the first 5 minutes of the program, and they might put that in there, just so that they have a reference for their own sake. But primarily, a lot of our customers will just use it as a description of what the program is.
Okay.
Next area that we have is our DSK settings. And what this will allow us to do is Cablecast has the ability to do simple overlay graphics or playback programming on our software or in our system. So we can do simple overlays like bugs, bug text, crawls, things like that. What this section will allow you to do is tie a specific bug text or crawl text to this specific show. And so anytime that this show is scheduled, that bug text and that crawl text will automatically play every single time. So what a lot of our customers will use this for, specifically with the bug text, is they might put in there previously recorded on this date, so that people know that it's a replay. Especially like with city council meetings or any sort of meeting like that, a lot of people will put that previously recorded in for that bug text. And so anytime then that's scheduled, it would actually call up and trigger that bug text to appear for playback.
And will that be on there the entire time of playback?
For the bug text, yes.
Okay.
It will. It'll just be bug text in the corner of every time for the duration of that file. With your crawl text, if you want to do crawls, you have the ability to set a length of how long from the start you want that crawl to run for. So like let's say in this case, we were having audio issues for the first 5 minutes of the choir concert here. Well, what you can do is you can say, sorry for the audio issues, we were having issues for the first 5 minutes of this file, and you can set that crawl for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then once it's done, you would do that. Otherwise, if you don't put in a time here, it's just going to default to the full length of that file. And then your crawl will play for the full length unless you denote it otherwise. The next section that we have is specifically for your system because you have live streaming or a live streaming server. The way that our live streaming works is basically everything that you're sending to your cable provider is also being sent to the live streamer. So you're simultaneously sending it's basically the same signal is being sent to two places. Now let's say that with this choir concert, they only have permissions and copyright rights to only have perform live and have it played on the cable channel, but they don't have live streaming rights or whatever it may be. Well, you do have the ability to make programs live streaming exempt, so you can have them opt out of the live streaming. So what will happen is if you click on this to make it live streaming exempt, is anytime that this program is scheduled for playback, it'll play on your cable channel, but it will not play on your live stream. What will play on your live stream instead will be a little placeholder that says the following program, XYZ, is not available for online viewing. Please tune in at X time for program ZYX. And it will do that. And then when that next program rolls up, your live stream will kick back on, and it will actually show your live stream program again, content. So by default, everything is going to be live streamed unless you opt out of it. So
Right.
just be mindful of that if you do want to have specific programs. And we see it a lot with like the high school choir concerts and things like that, where they might actually be selling copies of the DVD or something like that. And so they don't want people to have it on for online viewing or whatever it may be. So they might say, hey, we want you to buy a DVD, so don't stream it, but it can still play on the channel,
Okay.
on the actual cable channel, that sort of stuff. So that's where I've seen a lot of our customers come up with that. This last section that you have here is going to be your run information, and this is going to start populating once you start scheduling the program. It's going to tell you how many times it's been scheduled, what days, the dates, times, what channel, so on and so forth. So that's the show record here. So once you get everything filled out to your liking and fully with all the information you want, we can click on the save. And up here at the top, it's going to say that, hey, show 4 has been saved. It's no longer in our orphan section. We can go over to our valid section, and here we're going to have a file for show record 4. And it's going to, as you can see, it's going to rename the actual file name and put this little prefix at the beginning of it. It's going to be 4-1, so it's actually renaming that file. And what that prefix is going to tell the system is anytime that show record 4 is scheduled, I need to look for file with this prefix of 4-1 at the beginning of it so that I can actually play that file. So the show record and the digital file are separate, but they're tied together with that prefix. So it'll be there. Now, if I wanted to look at that actual show record that we just created, say I wanted to make some edits to it or add a different producer or add it to a project, I can click on our shows menu here on our left, go to show search, and I can click on that show record 4, and there's our show record. I can make edits, change titles, do whatever I need to do in there. And now that show record is ready for playback, or is ready for scheduling. Any questions about creating a show record?
Not at this time.
Okay. So it's real easy. This is going to be the easiest way to create show records. Drop the file onto the server first. It's going to show up in your orphan section, and click on new show from that orphan file. And then that way it's automatically going to tie it to that record. It's going to pull the mandatory fields automatically for you, and you're all set from there. So now you said that you were doing that occasionally you'll do some live programs as well.
Yes.
Well, if you want the system can actually help you with the automation, where it can automatically switch to that live source for you and stay on there and switch back automatically. You can schedule that automation. To do that, you need to create a show record for that live program as well. So what we're going to do is, because we're not creating from an orphan file, because we don't have the file, we're going to go to our shows menu over here on our left, and we're going to create new show. This is just going to basically give us a completely blank show record that we're going to create. So we're going to put in our title, and I'm just going to label this, let's say, Training Live. Just so I can actually type today. We'll put in Training Live as well for our CG title. We can add a local ID, project, same sort of thing, so on and so forth. Down here in our Real section, we need to choose our format so that the system knows where the media is coming from. So in this case, because it's not a video server, it's not a file we're playing, we're going to be coming from live, we're going to choose our live format. And our live is going to change our thumbnail to a little antenna to indicate that it's a live source. Now what we need to do is we need to set the length of this, telling the system, okay, when we do switch to this live source, how long do we want to stay there? So if you know that it's going to be a hard start and stop time, let's say that it's a new show or whatever, or talk show or whatever it may be, that's going to be a half hour or an hour long. You can put your hard start and stop time in there for your length. So you could put in 30 minutes in here if you know that the program's going to be 30 minutes. Now with things like meetings or sporting events, they can be 45, like especially with meetings, they can be 45 minutes one week, and they could be 4 hours the next week. It really depends. So what we encourage with our customers to set a length for those open-ended programs, excuse me, is we set a length and then you add some extra pad room to it. So let's say that the meeting is usually at least a half an hour or something like, or an hour-long meeting. Well, what we might do is we might put our length as an hour and a half just to be on the safe side. We can always go in and manually switch it off if the meeting ends early before that hour and a half mark, or if we, but it's better to basically err on the side of caution and make something longer than it is than to make it shorter than what it actually is going to end up being or what it could be.
Right.
So always kind of add that little bit of extra pad room, unless, like I said, you know it's going to be a hard start-stop on there. So once we set our length, we can set all our other information if we want to, things like that, and we can also hit save. And it'll generate a new show record for us, show 5, and go to that show search, and there it is, training live. Any questions about creating a show record for a live event?
Nope, not right now. Nope.
No. Alright. So now that we've created a couple show records, what we're going to need to do now is we can schedule them for playback. Because all we've done so far is we just created the records, we haven't scheduled anything. Now, is the system live yet? So if or
No, it
have
isn't.
you not made the switch over yet?
No, nothing's live yet.
Okay. So if we schedule stuff, it's not actually going to switch over on your channel and play random weird things.
Right.
Okay, awesome. That's fine. So to get to our schedule is the first option on the top of our menu bar here. And the way that our scheduling works in Cablecast is we schedule on a day-by-day calendar basis. So what you're doing is if you want to play something at a specific date and time, you schedule it at that specific date and time. It's not like where some of our competitors where you create a playlist or like a week-long playlist that just kind of repeats and repeats and repeats. You're actually scheduling the playback times for those specific times and dates, so on and so forth. So as you can see, we're on today's date. It's going to tell you the date right here. It's going to be Friday the 18th. If we want to go and navigate to tomorrow's schedule, we can use our arrow, click on the next day. We can navigate as far out as we want. We can use the other arrow to go back a day. If we want to jump to a specific day on the calendar, we can click on our little calendar icon there. We can jump to a specific day there. We can also advance months if we want to, so on and so forth. If we want to jump back to today's date on the schedule, we can click on the T, and that'll take us back to today. You'll also see that we have placeholders in here for top and the bottom of the hour. Now those are just placeholders. They're just going to generally give you an idea of where you're going to be putting a program in for that time of day. But if you wanted to specifically schedule something at, let's say, 2:45, we can schedule something at 2:45. You have that flexibility. You're not hard set to top or bottom of the hour. So there's two ways to add programs into your schedule. Excuse me. The first way is we can look at the time slot that we want to add a time into and click on that time slot. And it's going to open it up, and we can punch in the actual show ID for that program. So let's say we want to schedule our concert. I can type in show ID number 4, hit enter, and there at 4:30, show ID number 4 is going to play. It's going to be our spring concert. It's going to tell me the total run time of 1 hour and 27 minutes and 21 seconds. And so it's going to play and end at 5:57:21. So the next thing that I have the ability to schedule is at 5:51 or 5:57:21. So if I want to play something immediately after that, I can click on that time slot, put in our Adopt a Couch number 2. Now that's playing immediately after that. If I want to then schedule something at, say, 7:30, I can do that as well. I can put in that spring concert in again. And there we have it. So it's real easy to be able to add stuff into your schedule. Now let's say you don't remember what that show ID is. Once you get in here and you start putting a bunch of programs in a couple months, you might have 200 show records already. Well, everybody's assuming they're not going to be able to remember all their show records and things like that. Well, right here in our show, in our schedule, we can also use this field as a search field. So if I want to find something that had spring concert in the title, I can actually use that as a search, if I can actually spell spring correctly. And it's going to populate everything in there. So, for example, let's say you have all your city council meetings, you could put in city council, and it will list everything that has that by that title, and you can select the one you want on your schedule.
Now, will all those titles end up being on that the right-hand side on the gray?
Yes and no. So over here on the right-hand side, it's going to show you the 50 most recent show records that you've created initially. So once you get into that schedule section, it's going to show you 50 most recent. Here you do also have the ability to do some simple searching by the title. So if you wanted to search by city council meeting or by, let's say, our spring, like what we did there, I can search by a title and it will populate everything that has that word in the title, that keyword or phrase in there. We do have some advanced searching capabilities, which I'll talk about later on.
Okay.
So. Alright. Now what you'll see too is we do have a gap in our programming here. And it's going to tell you how much of a gap. So like right there, that's what, 32 minutes and a gap. Now what's going to be playing during that gap in that programming is going to be your carousel bulletin board. That's set as your default source. So if nothing is scheduled, it's going to automatically, the system is just going to switch over to that. You don't have to schedule it in. You don't have to fill it in with carousel or anything like that. The system will automatically switch that by just leaving there a gap in your schedule. So you don't need to worry about that. Also with this, you're going to be able to see that there is a gap in our schedule. Now the other way that we can schedule programming is we can choose from our list over here on our right by selecting any one of these programs. So let's say here our training live, that's an hour and a half. I can click on it once, and I can bring my mouse over, and it's going to give me a highlighted area where I can say I can insert that program. Now let's say I wanted to play it immediately after that spring concert. Well, there's a gap of 32 minutes. Well, our training live program is an hour and a half long. It's going to let me know right away saying, I do not have enough space between these two programs for you to put this in and have it play in its entirety. So it's going to highlight it in red like that, say that there's a conflict. So if you wanted to, you can actually put it in, say, oh, there I can put it in because I've got an hour and a half gap. Oh, but I can't put it in there. So it'll generally know and be able to kind of help you out with that. If you were to put that in there, what will happen is, as you can see, it's going to say, okay, this program's supposed to play until 10:27, but this program starts at 9:30. So it's going to have that conflict, and it's going to say there's a conflict right here, and it's going to highlight that program in red. And it's going to give you this red bump icon right here. Now what we can do is we can resolve that conflict by clicking on this button here, and it will adjust the start time of that program so that both of them can play in their entirety. The big thing is you want to make sure that you don't have conflicts even to start with. So just be very careful when you're actually scheduling to make sure that there's no conflicts. Because as you can see, we added it in this one program. It only affected one. Now let's say that you had like 10 programs back to back to back. Well, because you put in this one program, this program then bumps the next one, and then it bumps the next one, and then bumps the next one, and so on and so forth. And then next thing you know, you might be scheduling something at 7 o'clock, but because of all the bumps, it's not going to play till 4 a.m. the next morning. So you just want to make sure that you don't have the conflicts in your schedule to begin with. So if you wanted to remove a program out of your schedule, There's two ways to be able to delete it. You can either click on the little trash can icon right there to delete it out of the schedule, and it's only going to delete that entry in the schedule. It's not actually going to delete the show record. The other way is we can click on it to highlight what show we want to delete, and click on your delete button up here at the top. Excuse me. Now, if we want to rearrange our schedule, say, you know what, I don't want this to play at 7:30, I want to play this at a different time. Let's say I want this to play at 6:30. I can click on that little icon again, checkbox to highlight it, and I get this move icon in the schedule with all of my open time slots. And this will allow me to move that program to a new time slot if I want to. So if I want to have them play back to back like that, or I want it to play immediately after that one, I can do that. So it's real easy to be able to rearrange your schedule as well in there. Any questions so far about adding programs into your schedule and kind of shifting and rearranging them?
Nope, I kind of like the way that works, though.
You do have two other move icons over here for each individual event, and it's going to allow you to do a move up or a move down. And what this will do is, let's say that you wanted this spring concert to play immediately before this spring concert. Well, what I can do is I can move it, click my move down, and it's going to basically shift and bump it up right before that program, so it's going to play in immediately before that. Now, if I want that spring concert to immediately play after our PSA, I can use my move up, and it's just going to do the same thing, move it, bump it up right after that as well. So let's put that Training Live program back in here so that we have some variety of different things. And the nice thing with being able to kind of select your program over here on your right and then add it in is we can add this in. Let's say this has multiple playbacks in a single day, or you want to schedule this program for the entire week. Well, now that I have it selected, I can navigate to my next day. I can put it in my schedule a couple different times if I want to. Then I can go to my next day, throw it in there, so on and so forth. So it allows you to quickly speed up in adding programs into your schedule very fast. In there. Okay. So with this program, you'll see that we have those green check marks again in our schedule, indicating that those are valid shows or valid files that are able to be played back. Like with our Training Live, I'm going to uncheck that. We have our little satellite dish icon, indicating that this is a live source. So what the system's going to do is then at 7:30, it's going to take that source or that input on your router, and it's going to route it to the destination, to your channel, and it's going to stay there for an hour and a half. So we're handling the actual broadcast of the channel on your, or of the event on your channel. Now let's say you also want to record this. Use the system to record it so that you can replay it later. Well, you can record programs right from within your schedule here. There's this little circle icon right here that we can click on. It's going to turn red to indicate that it's going to be a recorded run. And it's going to give us our run details over here for that specific scheduled event on our right. Bottom section of it is going to be our record settings. So we're going to have to make sure that our device is set correctly. And in your guys' case, you only have the one record device, which is going to be the server to record back. The file key is what the file is going to be named when it's done, or when it saves and records it. And in this case, as you can see, the file name, or that file key, is going to have that prefix already in the front of it for that specific show record. So what that allows it to do is when this program airs, it schedule or records it, it's automatically going to tie it to that show record for us. So then when we go to want to replay this live meeting or this live concert or basketball game or whatever, instead of creating a separate second show record, all we need to do is go into that show record number 5, change our format from live meeting or a live format to video server, and it's already set up, and we can now schedule that for replays for us. This queue section right here, we don't need to worry about. That's legacy content. That'd be if you needed to queue it, so taping to DVDs or tapes where it needed that little bit of wind-up period. Being it's all digital now, you don't need to worry about any of that. So we get that set, you hit save, and now this program is also going to air and record on there. So now
Hey,
that we've got a bunch
Ryan.
of stuff in our schedule,
Hey, Ryan,
you'll
this
see
is-
that we've got these reddish. Yep.
This is Randy. That's recording an MPEG-2 file that can be moved to an archive if he needs to as well, right? It's a separate file.
Yep, so it's going to record. It's going to record into that E drive,
Right.
and it'll be named 5-1 or whatever. Here, let me see what its actually format is recording to, and we can adjust this. Where is it? It says here. So it's set up as a MPEG-2 record. We can do, yeah. So it's going to be an MPEG-2 file. You can either do 4 meg a second, 8, 10, 12.
Well, yeah, okay. You just set it at a medium. That's fine.
So, yep, so that'll be right into that E drive. So if he wants to pull that file out and throw it into the Ed Suite and cut it together, yep, he can do that right there.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Do you
All right,
understand
so
that?
let's go back to our schedule. So in our schedule here, let's say we're done scheduling for today, and we want to make sure that it gets in there. Well, being we scheduled everything, it's not technically activated yet. So at 4:30, this program is not actually going to go until we send autopilot. You'll see that we have these orange reddish dots over here on our left. Those are indicating that these programs are scheduled, but they have not been activated yet. So we haven't sent autopilot for them. So we need to send autopilot by clicking on the autopilot button here at the top that's highlighted in red, indicating that we need to send this to commit our changes. That's going to take us to our autopilot screen. The way autopilot works is you send autopilot for a date range, starting from right now until this date and time. And what it will say is, during that range, I want to activate everything in the schedule for that duration. By default, a lot of our customers will send autopilot for a minimum a week. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, I'm going to send autopilot through, the 25th. They may not be scheduled that far out in advance, but at least they know, okay, everything for the next week that's in the schedule is going to be activated for playback. If I don't send it that far, and let's say we only sent it through Monday, well, once Tuesday rolls around, nothing will play because the Tuesday schedule is not activated. So, just kind of a good way to get into a habit to make sure you at least send for a week with that. So we set our date range, we hit go here. What is our error message? Show is no format. That's why. Okay. So it's going to send, and it's going to give us a report. It's going to tell us right up here that the send was completed successfully, but there was an error. Now, if there's error messages or issues in your schedule, it's going to give you that message. So here it's going to tell us the error message is that this show does not have a format, so what it's going to do is it's going to send autopilot and it's going to activate all the other programs in our schedule except for this one specifically scheduled program. So we can go and adjust this if we want to. We can go in. You'll see that we have all back to our schedule. Everything now is green, indicating that it's going to be activated. So at 4:30 that program is going to play. Now let's find that show that I put in there. That does not have a format. Oh, it's this one, I think. Yeah, that was the one.
Well, that was actually highlighted
Delete
too.
that out.
Yeah.
Let's see. There we go. So now the send it completed successfully. Yep. And what you'll see is too is like right here how we have those few programs are highlighted in gold. It was kind of a gold outline. What that gold outline is indicating is that this is the premiere of that program on this channel. So as you can see, the very first time spring concert is scheduled, it's highlighted in gold, but the second time it's not. So it's letting you know that, hey, this is the premiere of this event in there. So it's just kind of indicating that. But now everything's green and it's now activated and it will actually play. Now our schedule is not dynamic. So in the sense, let's say I make an adjustment, like I want to move this and play this one at 11 p.m. or something like that. Because I made that adjustment, now that program has a red dot and I have to send autopilot again. So anytime you add something or rearrange or move something around or delete or put something in your schedule, so anytime you make a change to your schedule, period, you're going to want to make sure that you always send autopilot whenever you're done. And you can send autopilot as many times as you want. Basically what it's going to do is it's going to overwrite the previous version of autopilot that you sent and give it and overwrite it with the new version. If we go back out to our main menu, you're going to see that there's a new little widget here, and this is our channel dashboard. This is going to indicate the next 3 things that are scheduled for playback on our channel. With that, you're going to see, okay, at 4:30, we're going to play our spring concert until 5:57:21. And it's also going to give us a countdown. So this countdown is going to tell us in 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 52 seconds, this program is going to start playing. Once it starts playing, it's going to actually give us a countdown for when it's going to end. And then when it ends, it's going to remove itself. It's going to shift everything up. So it's always going to show you the next 3 things that are scheduled on your channel. So you'll be able to kind of see what's going on. It's also going to have those numbers indicated in yellow to indicate that those are premieres as well for you. Any questions about adding programming to your schedule, sending autopilot, recording so far, anything like that?
I don't think so. I can always watch my tape afterwards.
There you go. So let's talk quickly about this recording and how we set it for with that extra pad room. Now let's say that program, so we set it for an hour and a half. Now let's say that the program ends earlier. It's going to end at the hour mark instead. Well, we do have the ability to manually switch our channel and manually stop the recording and manually kind of override our recording. So let's say that ends early here. To manually do that, we're going to go to our autopilot menu over here on our left, our little paper airplane icon in our menu bar. Come on, there we go. And we're going to choose our force matrix. So the force matrix is going to act as basically our router I/O. These are going to be all of our sources over here on our left. And these are going to be all of our destinations across the top. And you said that the system's not currently live?
Correct.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this to... So let's say our program ends early. We come into autopilot force matrix, and this is what it's going to look like. Our live feed is going to be currently routed to our channel output. So that green dot is going to be there, and our recording is actually going to be happening right up here. It's going to tell us it's recording. So what we need to do is we need to reroute our output. So we can say, okay, well I want this to go back to carousel. So I can simply click on carousel, go to our channel output there, and now I can go and stop our recording. So I have our actions for our flex record. I can choose stop for that action, and I can click on this button right here, which is our device only, which sends that stop action command to that device. And there we stop the recording. So then the next thing that's scheduled, once it gets to that part, it will continue on with the automation and it will trigger it back up. So that's if your program is going to end early. Now let's go the other way around. Let's say that we set it for an hour and a half, but we're getting close to that hour and a half mark, and we think we're going to go another half hour. I think we're actually going to go 2 hours instead of a half hour. Well, we can do the same thing. We can manually override some of the stuff. So at 1:30, the system's automatically going to switch back to carousel because there's nothing scheduled immediately after it. So instead of switching over in the middle of someone talking, we need to stop our automation. So we're going to go back over to our autopilot menu, go to our force matrix, and we need to override, so it's going to be over here on our live feed to channel output. We're going to override the automation for our channel output. So we're going to click that override button, and it's going to say, are you sure you want to stop the automation for the channel? We hit OK, and it's going to stay on this video source, or that source is going to stay on that output until we tell it otherwise. So once that 1:30 time rolls around, instead of switching back over to carousel, it's going to stay on our live feed until we switch it over or tell it to resume itself. So that's the way we can do if it's going to go longer than that, so we don't switch over when it's not supposed to. Now, if we need to extend our recording, being we set that up to record, it's going to record for an hour and a half because that's what we originally set it for. So we need to extend our recording. To do that, up here under our channel, we can click on this drop-down menu and it's going to give us a couple options. The channel schedule itself, which is channel 11, or we can go to our record schedule. The record schedule is going to show us all of the listed record events for that day. So this is our training live. It's going to tell us, yep, we're going for an hour and a half. Now, if I need to edit this and say, you know what, I think we're going to go another extra half hour, I can edit that record event. Say, okay, I'm going to actually go for 2 hours instead of an hour and a half. Hit save, send autopilot. And now I'm also going to record for an extra half hour now. Once that meeting ends, we can go back to our force matrix, resume our automation, and then we can go back to carousel, manually switch it back over to carousel. So resuming that automation, then the next thing that's scheduled, we'll actually schedule to do that.
Ryan, this is Randy.
Yes, sir.
I want to point out to Wayne that with the Video Hub clean switch 12x12 unit that we have here, you can also override this by controlling it manually yourself right at the front of the switcher. So if you don't have time, if you've forgotten where this is and you're afraid that, you know, the feed from the basketball game's over and we're going to get a bunch of junk on the air, you can always come in here and just pop up carousel, right? And, you know, that's input number 1. It goes to 11 for output. And that'll override this. And then you can get in there and fix it at your leisure. But if in your schedule you got a program coming up, once that program once we hit the time that program is scheduled, autopilot will switch you back to Cablecast again. Is that correct, Ryan? So
One more time. So like if you manually switch over to carousel and the next thing that's scheduled comes up, yeah, the system will make that automation switch.
good. Does that make sense to you, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay. Any other basic questions about the schedule, autopilot, force matrix, recording?
Not right now.
Alright. So let's talk about some tools that are available to kind of speed up your day-to-day operation scheduling your channel. So within Cablecast, we have the ability to copy and paste programming. So let's say that this spring concert right here. I want to copy this program and paste it somewhere else. So I can click on it to select it. I can go up to the top here, choose our copy. Now that I put that copy in or clicked on copy, I now have a paste icon right there in my schedule. So I have the ability to paste this in wherever I want to. I can go to tomorrow, paste it in on those days if I want to as well, and be able to do that. So that'll be able to quickly be able to put things in. So you could actually schedule in every single playback for the week of a specific program. If you, let's say, you have a city council meeting plays every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock. You could put it in on Monday, copy it, and then go to Wednesday and Friday and punch them in at those times. You do have some other paste options as well. By clicking on our paste icon right next to copy, it's going to give you 3 paste options here. Paste to the original, which is going to allow you to paste to the original time that you copied that program from on the day that you have called up. So because now we're on Saturday, if I hit paste to original, it's going to paste to that original time that we scheduled it for, but on the date that I have it called up. We can also paste to a specific time. So this will paste to a specific time on whatever day we are currently navigated to in the user interface. The last option is going to give us the most versatility and is the most powerful, and that's our advanced paste. And that will allow you to paste to multiple days and multiple times all in one step. So like we were saying, let's say you copied that first program and it plays on Wednesdays and Fridays. Well, what I can do is I can go to my schedule here, say, okay, Monday, it's going to play at 7 p.m. And then it's also going to paste to Wednesday at, let's say, 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. And then we're also going to paste it to Friday, why not, the 25th at 7 p.m. again. Realistically, you could fill out the entire month's worth of playbacks if you wanted to with that. I punch them all in here, I hit paste, and now if I go to Monday, there it is at 7. Wednesday, there it is at 11 and 4. And then I go to Friday, and there it is at 7 again. So you have that versatility of being able to paste to multiple days, all in one step, just to save yourself all that extra time and all those extra steps of navigating to each day, clicking on the time slot, punching in the show ID, whatever it may be. You can quickly do that really fast.
Yeah, I like that part.
Yeah. What I see a lot of our customers will use this for is, let's say that they have like Monday schedule. Everything that plays on Monday also replays, the same schedule replays on Wednesdays and Fridays. Well, what we can do is we can sit here, click on this top checkbox to highlight everything, hit copy, navigate to that day, or let's say, hey, this Friday schedule repeats. I paste it in there and I can paste the entire day's worth of schedule in there. So you even have the ability to copy an entire day's schedule and paste it in there on other days, or use your advanced paste. Any questions about the copy and paste?
Time saver right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other areas that I kind of mentioned earlier that we're going to talk about is our advanced searching capabilities. So over here, it's going to show you the 50 most recent programs. And even if you were to search by keywords or something like that, it's only going to show you 50. You're not going to have like page 1, page 2, page 3. To be able to search through and get like a full, robust list, you need to do our advanced searching, which is right up here. And what our advanced searching allows you to do is search by specific filters and sections. So all those key areas and all those criteria that we filled out in our show record are searchable fields. So we can search by a filter. So we can add a specific filter, and it's going to be any of these here, where we can search by category, we can search by CG title, comments, local ID, modified date, whatever project, title, total runtime, so on and so forth. So, real easy if you wanted to search by specific project, you can say, okay, it belongs to, and you can say, okay, it's going to be our test project 01. I can hit search, and there's our program that was in there. And so then you can search by those specific keywords or specific key features and criteria within all your show records. One thing that I like to do is, let's say, right here we've got a gap of 4 minutes between our spring concert and our training live. Well, now let's say that I want to find a program to fill that gap. Well, what I can do is I can go and search by total runtime. And I can say, okay, I want to find something less than let's say less than 4 minutes. And it's going to populate everything that's been in there that's under 4 minutes in length. Then what we can also do is we can go and narrow down our search criteria even more. I want to find the one thing that hasn't been played back or something like that. So what we can do is we can go and edit our search. We can add another filter. Let's say I want to do by run count. So how many times it's been scheduled. And I can say, all right, less than 1 time, just as an example, so we can narrow it down even more. So now it's going to show us that, hey, this program has only been scheduled, or that's under 5 minutes or under 4 minutes, and it's been scheduled less than 1 time. And I can do that. So it really allows you to kind of very narrow down and specify what you're searching for and being able to find things. Now let's say that this is a search that you're going to do on a regular basis. You're always searching for something that's under 4 minutes. Or, for example, let's say you're always searching, well here, let's use a real world example, or a real example. Let's go back. Let's clear out our searches. Let's search by project. And we're going to say it belongs to our test project here. Well, instead of going through all those extra steps, say, okay, search by project, choose test project, so on and so forth, I could save this search. So I can say that this is our test project search. Now, under our saved section here, I have a drop-down menu of all of our different saved searches. So tomorrow when I go to schedule, I want to schedule that test project, or the latest episode from our test project. I can just call that up, and there's going to list all the programs. Now, anytime I create a new show record and I put it in that test project, it's going to automatically populate into these saved searches because it falls under that criteria in that saved search. So it's going to continually update with new content as you add it. So it quickly allows you to be able to save yourself those times and those steps to really be able. So I see a lot of our customers, they'll create a bunch of saved searches for all the different projects that they use. They might have a saved saved search for their city council meetings, and then like basketball games and whatever it may be. So then they can just quickly go to their saved, go to their drop-down menu, click on the one they want, and say, okay, this is the episode I want to play, and schedule it. So it allows you to quickly be able to navigate and find the program specifically you want. You also have those same searching capabilities from our shows menu over here. So we go to shows, we go to show search, and it's also going to give us those same filters that we can search by. If we go back out to our shows menu, you'll be able to see our saved searches. So we can call those up with the criteria as well. We can also manage our saved searches. So if that's a search you don't want to use anymore, you can simply click on your delete and it will delete that saved search. Oops. For you. So the big thing with the advanced searching is it's only going to be as good as how consistent you are filling out all the fields in your show records. So if you're consistently filling all that information in and using it the same way, using all those fields the same way, your advanced searching is going to be very great, or it's going to be very helpful for you. But if you're kind of inconsistent with it, you're not going to be getting as much of the information in all the shows as easily. So, any any questions about your searching?
No?
Okay. Any questions about anything that I've kind of gone over or have not gone over yet?
You're probably going to go over how to delete a program? Or delete a show?
Yep. Yep. So I can touch on that. So with any show, like we were kind of saying, is there's the show record and then there's the digital file with it. What I encourage and suggest to our customers is to never delete the show record portion. Because that show record is just a database entry in the system. And it's going to hold all your metadata, how often programs have played, things like that. It's not taking up space and you're not doing anything in there. If you need to clean up space, like let's say you're dropping below 20% on your server and you get a warning message and things like that, you just need to clean up some space, you can delete the file off of the server. You can do that simply by going to your digital files. Let's say we went to our Valid here, say I don't want to play the spring concert anymore. I can click on this, hit delete, and it will actually delete the file off of the server. But it's going to keep the show record. And the reason why you're going to want to keep that show record is because of all the metadata. If you, let's say at the end of the year, you want to run a report on how much programming you played in the last year, or how much program has been submitted and content has been played, and so on and so forth. If you delete the show record, you lose all that playback data. So with show records, always keep them. You're not going to run out of show records. If you need to clean up some space, like you're running out of storage, you can delete the digital file or move it into onto an external hard drive for archiving purposes or whatever it may be.
And he can do that right in Finder, just like he would on his with his other app.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. You could go to, like if you went here, being still connected to that E drive, if you wanted to, you could delete the file right off the server as well, or you can move it to your desktop or whatever, move it to an external hard drive, so on and so forth.
And I would suggest that you guys keep the folder on this Apple or whatever drive you're using to hold those as a kind of a backup of the program itself. In other words, you're gonna, by copying it over to the E drive, you'll have created an archive if you leave these here.
Yeah.
And if something happened to that drive and we can't get back to those files, at least you have the originals.
Any other questions?
I guess not.
Okay. So yeah, what I would suggest, and I know Randy kind of already mentioned that, is next steps, start putting some stuff on the server, start creating your show records, and just basically just kind of start playing around with it. It's not that hard. It is very technical, but just the more you use it, the easier it's going to get. It's just like falling off a bike, right?
Well, we got them on training wheels. We'll take those training wheels off in a week or two.
So, but too, like if anything, you can either reach out to Randy. Probably he'll try to answer any of the questions. Otherwise, you guys can reach out to me too, with any questions that you may have. Or you can also reach out to our support department, and they will either be able to answer it for you, or they'll just kind of point you in my direction and forward your email on to me. So, but yeah, don't hesitate to ask. One thing too, support for our products, whether it's like if you're getting error messages or anything like that, technical support for our products is free of charge for a customer for the life of the product. So, so don't hesitate to reach out to us with issues or problems that you're having, or even just any questions in general. We'll more than happy to be able to work with you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else
Ryan,
you guys can think of?
this is Randy. We are still working on securing the fixed IP addresses. I'm hoping that, well, we'll know next week, but it may not be till next Friday. Can I schedule a time, or how do you want to handle that? Remember, we didn't finish.
You could. It might just be. It might be easier. Like, what I would say is either just reach out to me, shoot me an email first,
Okay,
and see what my schedule looks like.
Yep.
Because I might just be able to just hop in and do it.
okay,
Otherwise, we might just say, hey, schedule like an hour of a la carte training, just so that we have an hour of blocked off time on my calendar.
right on.
To make sure that we get it done.
Okay,
So yeah, just reach out to me and we'll kind of play it from there.
okay. All right, sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess you guys have a great rest of your day and have a good weekend. And we will. Looks like we'll chat with you Monday afternoon.
That's right. See you then.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Ryan. See you later.